You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. I'm Stephen Willis. I am messing up all over the place today, but we're going to try and make it through this show. I'm here with Daylan Flowers for a weekly segment. How are we doing, Daylan?
Doing pretty well, my friend. Can't complain right now, man. Appreciate you for having me on as usual.
Yeah, I do want to apologize for it because apparently you're getting a blooper reel.
Look, sometimes throughout our lifetime, we just need a little bit of unexpected laughter. And that's what I'm getting over the last 15 minutes. So look, it's much appreciated, honestly, whether you understand it or not. So I'm just going to sit back and then continue enjoying this moment right now.
Yeah. Just so everybody knows, I'm unbelievably transparent about everything's going on. I have no secrets, but I did a show earlier today on why Juice Wells should come back to school. And then I found out after it was done that Juice Wells was already gone and there's no chance he's coming back to school. So I had to create an emergency podcast, essentially, that's all about the national media and the SEC downfall and all of that stuff. So then I came immediately from that to talk with Daylan. And we walk up and I had all the other things. It's been a mess. But Daylan, man, I appreciate it, buddy.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
The Gator Bowl was a bit of destruction of Duke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was Jackson Dart had a day. He had a real day. I mean, one of those mouth on the floor types football games, threw for over 400 yards. Jordan Watkins was very good. Caden Lee was very good. Juice Wells, the aforementioned Juice Wells, had a moment to where he looked right. It was a situation where Ole Miss scored 52 points on the number one defense in the ACC.
Yeah, and for me personally, it was exciting because, from the outside looking in, people will be like, Lane Kiffin has not stopped running his mouth over the last month. But let's be fair, that's been Lane Kiffin his entire career. But for him to do what he's been doing over the last month and for Ole Miss to go back it up, it says a lot. I'm hearing so much now. You guys played Duke's third string quarterback. Well, look, they have basically their entire starting defense out there, and they still, got slaughtered. So I'm proud of this team for going out the way they did, despite all the circumstances of the way the season is gone, and this team coming together and finishing the bowl game up, which you don't see, that many players from the regular season that start and come to a bowl game and still play as well. So just a quick shout out to Jackson Dart, his leadership and his role, his mentality, and the way he executed the portal last off season and his buying together of the players and the coaching staff for keeping a Cancel type of group and this type of football together. It was fun for me, man. Like, hey, this was bittersweet for me. Jackson came into Oxford the exact same time I got there to start my college time. So he will forever just kind of be a part of my lifetime and my life history. So to see him go out with that piece of swagger and happiness, it was refreshing. Again, obviously this season did not go the way that Ole Miss fans and myself included wanted it to go. But another double win season going in for third in the last 4 years kind of puts us into standard of what we kind of want moving forward. And as well, I'll make a quick point to you that I don't think I've made to you yet, but I've made talking to my man Zach Moretz a lot. I thought that the one thing that maybe Ole Miss fans can take away from playing in the Gator Bowl instead of missing out on the playoffs is this. While Georgia and Texas and all these other teams are in this 12-team playoff and they're preparing for that, although we obviously wanted to be in that moment, it may have given us a little bit of a chance to focus a little bit more on the transfer portal and get guys that maybe we wouldn't have been able to get if we were focusing on the playoffs. So that's just kind of been me trying to take something good away from maybe a little bit of an asterisk in the way we wanted this season to go. So it was a great time, and I'm glad that the fellas got together one last time to play in the Ole Miss football jersey and go out with a win.
Yeah, on tomorrow's emergency podcast, it's basically all about their Fox talking about their SEC downfall and all of that. And it's like, hey, y'all need to lay off of that because that SEC downfall is also accompanying a pretty nice rise in Ole Miss football. And, it's kind of hard to be upset about Georgia being down when Ole Miss is just beating the brakes off of everybody.
Yeah, it's bittersweet because, again, this is not just me being an Ole Miss fan or having the Ole Miss, understanding that I do, but I know that we this is our own destiny. We put ourselves in this situation. Do not get me wrong with that. But I truly believe maybe other than Ohio State, that this Ole Miss team would have competed and beat any other team in this 12-team playoff this year. And I wholeheartedly believe that. But as well, look, I say this, and I say this wholeheartedly as well. Watch out next year. I mean, Kirby Smart, they had a down year. It's a Georgia fan. You don't expect Carson Beck to have the year that he had. And I think if he had stayed healthy going into the playoff and played like I watched him play last year, then Georgia more than likely could have been still playing right now. I think Steve Sarkisian will rebuild and reload as well, and he will still bring back a lot of talent. The SEC, my personal opinion, I always have to say that I don't think it had a down year. I think this year was just a really competitive year, like you're going to see in SEC men's basketball as well this year. And I just think teams kind of leveled the playing field. I think Vanderbilt had a successful year this year, and you've never seen that in my lifetime. I've never seen that. So you're seeing more teams with the NIL and the transfer portal have the ability to compete with Georgia and Bama and Texas now. And that's okay. I enjoy it. For me, although we don't, from the outside looking in, we don't see Bama dominated in a year. You can kind of correlate that to everything that's going on in their program. But for me, it was fun. You got to see Vandy beat Bama. You got to see teams compete with Texas and Georgia on a weekend basis. And for me, that's exciting football, whether I'm kind of the SEC guy or not. For me, I love football in general. So it was exciting to see some of the top teams not be undefeated and not dominate every single team they played this year for me. So I still think the SEC is by far the best conference in the country. They still recruit at a higher level than any other conference. So I say watch out next year. I think teams like Kirby Smart in Georgia and Kalen DeBoer will have things figured out, I think, a little better next year as well. The SEC is going to be just fine. So I'm not concerned about any of that at all.
Yeah, the quote SEC downfall, what's actually happening is elite teams. There's no such thing as elite teams anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There's more teams that can actually win. And it's not a downfall in the SEC, it's a downfall of elite teams.
Yeah.
Once that happens, everything raises up because the Ole Miss rise that's going up, Ole Miss is in that group of 16, 17 teams right now that honestly could have won a tournament that was about a national championship. So we'll see exactly how that goes. Anyway, when we come back, we're going to turn the page to hoops. We're going to talk about the Ole Miss game versus Arkansas on Wednesday. We're also going to get Daylan's thoughts on the Lady Revs, which he says he has a few. There's nothing like the energy of being at a live game, the roar of the crowd, the sound of the sneakers squeaking on the court, and even spotting a few celebrities in the stands. I remember going to an NBA game a few years back. I think it was the Mavericks and the Timberwolves, and the electricity in the arena was unforgettable. You can't replicate that on your couch. This year, I'm looking forward to catching more games live, maybe heading up to the arena in Orlando. And Game Time makes it easier than ever with their new Game Times Picks feature. Whether it's basketball, concerts, or theater, Game Time helps you find the best deals on great seats without the hassle of endless scrolling. I just hopped on the app to check out the tickets for an upcoming game, and the Game Time Picks app made it a breeze to find a super deal on amazing seats. Plus, the app showed me a panoramic seat view so that I could pick a perfect spot, no guesswork, no surprises. And it's not just sports. Game Time has incredible deals for concerts and comedy shows. I'm planning to grab tickets to a concert next month, and with all-in prices, I see exactly what I'll pay up front, no hidden fees at checkout. What I love most about Game Time is their lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And with event cancellation protection, your tickets are covered if plans change. It's the most flexible ticketing app I've ever used. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with the Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. And for big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $250 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same game parlays, and so much more. Ohio State is currently a 5.5-point favorite over Texas, and Notre Dame is a 1.5 over Penn State at the moment. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make every playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, so Daylan, let's turn the page a little bit and start talking about basketball. Ole Miss is 1-0. They got the win over the Georgia Bulldogs. They actually rebounded a pretty good rebounding Georgia team, and they have a game at Arkansas. Is this going to be a situation to where it's a whole bunch of basically 9-9 teams in the SEC that you just win at home?
Yeah, honestly, man, and it's funny because a lot of people watch Arkansas play Tennessee, and the way that Tennessee just absolutely steamrolled Calipari and the Hogs, and they just kind of thought to themselves that I don't think Arkansas is ready. But I will say going on the road in any type of atmosphere in this conference is probably the hardest thing to do, and consistently win on the road is going to be even tougher. Look, it's going to be a dogfight at Fayetteville, one of the hardest atmospheres in the country, and I think Calipari got a good punch in the face against Tennessee and understood what needs to be better and corrected very quickly after the game against the number 1 Tennessee Volunteers. So expect Arkansas to come out gunning. We're going to have to hit shots. Simple as that. We're going to have to score a lot of points. And if we can do that effectively and play our game of basketball as well, defend the perimeter. Arkansas is very athletic. They will love to get out of transition and score a lot of threes. If we can stop that and kind of get in their heads and lower the crowd momentum of Bud Walton Arena, I think that Ole Miss will definitely have a great chance. For me personally, this is just a fun game. I grew up loving the Arkansas Razorbacks, and the basketball team is so fond of me. But this also has a lot of ties to Chris Beard. Arkansas, you can't. I won't say this 100% because I don't know if this was ever confirmed, but I know there was some type of contact with Chris Beard trying to become the Arkansas Razorbacks head coach before John Calipari. So I honestly think this is a way to kind of put it to Arkansas fans for Ole Miss and just saying, hey, try to take our coach and you couldn't, and we still came out there to your home field and we beat you. So this is a big game in my opinion. I really think you kind of want to start conference play 2-0. I think this gives us a big boost of momentum going forward as well, and that gives us a good piece of confidence going into, if we can go to Arkansas and we can win at Bud Walton Arena, then we have the ability to compete with any team in this conference. So it's going to be a fun one, and it's going to take a lot to beat Arkansas, but I definitely think that this team has the capabilities of doing it, but they're going to have to play a lot better than how they played at home against Georgia in the first conference game.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Now, Arkansas is a very good front court team, and it's a typical John Calipari team, and it's going to be hard going up to Bud Walton. Hey, they've got the slobbering hog back on the court like they did back in old Barnhill Arena. So that's pretty cool as well. So this is a game that, going back to Rob Evans at Ole Miss, the Ole Miss-Arkansas game started to mean a little bit on the hardwood. Yeah. We'll see how it happens with Chris Beard in this game because it should be quite interesting. Now, let's change the subject. What are your thoughts on the early start of the Lady Rebels? I mean, Coach O has them going. They kind of had a lead and choked it away a little bit against Texas A&M. What are your thoughts on this Lady Rebels team?
I rewatched the game. I missed it live initially, so I had to go back and watch it. It's just simple, and it's unfortunate. It's been a thing that I've seen from Coach O's team over the past couple of years. Yeah, we just got to hit shots. Like, I genuinely watched the game, and we had momentum. We were up 17 at one point, and we just couldn't make shots. And that kind of lackluster into our defense, and A&M kind of threw up a few shots, and luckily they went in for them. So you kind of have to build on, kind of some things not going your way as well. But I would say one thing that's really huge for people that watch the women's team a lot and for people that don't. Ole Miss has the kind of realm of, and when the game is on the line, coming out of a timeout with maybe 20 seconds left with the last shot on the game, forcing something that is absolutely not necessary when I feel like a better play call or a better opportunity is always available. So my key for the rest of this season is, how can the Ole Miss women's basketball team be better under clutch circumstances. I think that is the moment where we have to focus, whether this is the SEC. And just like I talked about with the men's basketball and football, the SEC women's basketball team conference this year is just as competitive as it's ever been. And I mean that wholeheartedly. With OU and Texas coming in this year, it makes it even greater. Those are two historic women's basketball programs. And now there's going to be even more competition for the Ole Miss Lady Rebels. But look, how do we move forward in the moments of clutch? I going back to the USC game early season, that's how they lost that game with an inbound play and they turned the ball over, and USC ends up winning that game with multiple opportunities in the last 3 minutes to score and put themselves up and beat the number 2 team at the time in the country and have a really good quad 1 win on their resume. I've seen it before this year. I've seen it in prior years. Ole Miss just kind of struggles in those last 2 minutes of basketball, and we really have to focus on those areas. And like I said earlier, just hit shots. We have so many wide open shots, and sometimes we just completely miss, or we hesitate the wide open shots for something that's not needed, and then we lose transition offense and defense, and then we have to kind of slaughter for what we don't have. I think the minimal things are obvious, and I think the Coach Yo and her staff will be able to fix them, but it has to come now and not 10 games into the conference play, or when we're getting ready to try to go for a chance in a tournament run, or having a chance to play in March Madness. It has to come now. And as much as the A&M loss sucks, I really hope it's a turn in the coaching staff and in the players to saying, okay, we need to get our stuff together now. And we have girls that can play really hard. They can effectively score. And I didn't see that against A&M yesterday. But now I really hope this was a learning opportunity and a learning experience to not allow that to happen again. And don't get me wrong, I'm not expecting perfection. Nothing is ever going to be perfect. But I saw something yesterday that it was kind of shocking. And I think that the girls have more abilities in their repertoire than I saw how they played against A&M. And so it's going to be on the girls and Coach Yo and her staff to completely understand what happened yesterday is unacceptable for this program, and moving forward is what we're capable of, and that's going to the tournament. And this year, Maddie Scott's leaving. KK Dean's going to be going after this year. Kennedy Todd Williams is going to be going after this year. This is the year that you want to have that tournament success again, and you want to make another Sweet 16, Elite 8 plus run. So, it's a time to buckle down for Ole Miss and Coach Yo, and now I am kind of even more eager and excited to see how the rest of the conference play turns out after this loss against A&M.
All right. So remember, tomorrow we do an episode of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast on the SEC downfall. Check that out. I do apologize for a show, and I do apologize if it gets word salady. It was kind of a mess, but I do want to let everybody know before we get out of here. Analytics is the old English word meaning bad football. Anyway, Daylan, I'll talk to you later, buddy.
Appreciate you, man. Hotty toddy, y'all. Stay safe throughout this weather, everyone, as well.